The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Mr. Gabriel John Utterson was a lawyer known for his seriousness and restraint. He lived a quiet, orderly life and believed strongly in self-control and respectability. One evening, while walking with his distant cousin Richard Enfield, Utterson heard a disturbing story. Enfield described how, late one night, he saw a small, strangely unsettling man trample a young girl in the street. The man showed no remorse and tried to brush the incident aside. Only after Enfield threatened a public scandal did the man agree to pay compensation. The payment came in the form of a check signed by the highly respected Dr. Henry Jekyll. This detail troubled Utterson deeply. He knew Dr. Jekyll well, a brilliant doctor, wealthy, charitable, and admired in society. The idea that such a man might be connected to someone capable of cruelty was unsettling. Even worse, Utterson remembered Jekyll's strange will, which stated that if Jekyll were to disappear or die, all his property should go to a man named Edward Hyde. Utterson had always found this suspicious, but now his concern grew. Driven by anxiety, Utterson sought out Hyde. When he finally encountered him, he was shocked. Hyde was small, pale, and gave off an immediate sense of discomfort. Though Utterson could not point to a specific deformity, Hyde's presence inspired a deep, instinctive dislike. Hyde spoke bluntly, with no manners, and showed no concern for social rules. Utterson feared Hyde was blackmailing Jekyll and resolved to protect his friend. Utterson confronted Dr. Jekyll about the will. Jekyll laughed it off, insisting that Hyde was someone he trusted and that there was no danger. He asked Utterson to leave the matter alone. Though uneasy, Utterson agreed, hoping his fears were unfounded. Time passed, and Jekyll hosted dinners and gatherings as usual. For a while, Hyde seemed to fade into the background. Then London was shaken by a shocking crime. Sir Danvers Carew, a respected member of Parliament, was brutally murdered in the street. Witnesses described a small man attacking him with sudden, animal-like violence. The murderer was identified as Edward Hyde. Utterson joined the police and led them to Hyde's apartment. Inside, they found signs of a hurried escape. Hyde was gone, but the brutality of the crime confirmed Utterson's worst fears. Jekyll, when questioned, appeared shaken, but claimed Hyde would never return. He showed Utterson a letter supposedly written by Hyde, apologizing and promising to disappear forever. For a while, this seemed to be true. Dr. Jekyll changed after Hyde's disappearance. He became friendlier, more relaxed, and returned to his charitable work. Utterson allowed himself to believe the nightmare was over, but the peace did not last. Jekyll soon began avoiding social contact, shutting himself away in his laboratory. His servants noticed strange behavior, and his once cheerful personality gave way to fear and secrecy. One evening, Utterson and Dr. Lanyon, another old friend of Jekyll, discussed their concerns. Lanyon, once close to Jekyll, now spoke of him with bitterness. He hinted that Jekyll's scientific pursuits had crossed dangerous boundaries and offended everything Lanyon believed about proper science and morality. Shortly afterward, Lanyon fell gravely ill. When Utterson visited him, Lanyon looked like a man who had suffered a terrible shock. He spoke of something horrifying he had witnessed, but refused to explain. Before dying, Lanyon gave Utterson a sealed letter, instructing him not to open it until after Jekyll's death or disappearance. Meanwhile, Jekyll became a prisoner in his own home. He sent messages to Utterson begging for help, but refusing all visits. His servants whispered of strange cries and commands coming from the laboratory, spoken in a voice that was not quite Jekyll's. They feared something was terribly wrong. One night, Utterson was summoned to Jekyll's house by the terrified butler, Poole. Poole claimed that the man inside the laboratory was not his master. He said the voice had changed and that Jekyll had been locked away for weeks. Utterson agreed to investigate. Together, they forced their way into the laboratory. Inside, they found the body of Edward Hyde lying on the floor, dead by suicide. There was no sign of Dr. Jekyll. Utterson feared the worst, but discovered several documents left behind. One was a note asking Utterson to read Lanyon's letter. Another was Jekyll's full confession. From these papers, Utterson learned the terrible truth. Dr. Jekyll had long struggled with the dual nature of humanity. He believed that every person contained both good and evil impulses, locked together in constant conflict. Driven by ambition, he sought a way to separate these forces. Through a carefully designed chemical potion, he succeeded. When Jekyll first drank the potion, he transformed into Edward Hyde, a physical embodiment of his darker self. Hyde was smaller and younger, representing instincts unburdened by conscience. At first, Jekyll believed he could control this transformation, choosing when to become Hyde and when to return to himself. As Hyde, he indulged in selfish pleasures and cruelty, enjoying freedom from guilt. But Hyde grew stronger. Over time, the transformations began happening without the potion. Jekyll would wake to find himself transformed, trapped in Hyde's body. Terrified, he tried to suppress Hyde, choosing to live purely as Jekyll. For months, he succeeded, but the effort was exhausting. Eventually, Hyde returned with greater violence than before, leading to the murder of Sir Danvers Carew. Horrified by his own actions, Jekyll resolved never to become Hyde again. But his supplies of the original chemical ran out, and new batches failed. Without the potion, Jekyll could no longer reverse the transformation. Dr. Lanyon's role became clear as well. In desperation, Jekyll had asked Lanyon to retrieve a drawer of chemicals and deliver them to Hyde. When Lanyon witnessed Hyde drink the potion and transform back into Jekyll before his eyes, the shock shattered his understanding of reality and led to his death. In his final confession, Jekyll admitted that he underestimated the power of evil. Hyde was not merely a part of him, but a force that grew with every indulgence. As Jekyll weakened, Hyde gained control. Knowing he would soon be trapped forever as Hyde, Jekyll ended his life to prevent that fate. When Utterson finished reading, the truth weighed heavily on him. Dr. Jekyll, a man admired for his intelligence and kindness, had been destroyed by his refusal to accept responsibility for all parts of himself. His attempt to separate good from evil had only allowed evil to grow unchecked. London continued on as usual, unaware of how close respectability had come to collapse. But Utterson would never forget the lesson. He understood now that humanity's darkest impulses cannot be isolated or ignored. They must be acknowledged, faced, and controlled, or they will take over completely.